Li, who's had 40 years of experience in the United States teaching at Harvard and at Columbia and Berkeley, Davis, and Cal State Long Beach, where he founded the Asian American Studies program and was awarded the Outstanding Professor Award as well as the Outstanding Teacher Award. And he's also, on top of all that, is a master of calligraphy, and he will have some works in the San Diego Chinese Historical Museum's Li Sao exhibition, and we'll also have a solo exhibition at San Diego State Chinese Cultural Center. So we'll all want to see both of those. And then after he's finished, we'll have Lily Birmingham as a discussant, our own Lily Birmingham, who's been an acting director and serves currently as treasurer and curator and docent trainer at the San Diego Chinese Historical Museum, and was and is a docent at San Diego Museum of Art and was involved in training the docents at that museum. I want to mention two little housekeeping issues. One is we have the AI subtitles that are converting our English oral speech into Chinese characters, which my Chinese speaking friends tell us is remarkably accurate unless an English speaker attempts to say something in Chinese and the software becomes completely befuddled. Apart from that, it's accurate. And the other point is that don't forget, if you have questions, keep them in mind and ask them at the end, or write them in the chat box, and Elizabeth will be keeping track. And when we're finished, when Professor Lee has finished the talk, and then Lily has done her comments and discussions afterwards, we'll have time for those questions. So if there's nothing else, I want to now welcome Dr. Sanpao Li, and we're looking forward to hearing his talk.
Well, good morning. Thank you, Dr. Stein. Again, happy Chinese Lunar New Year to everyone, the Year of the Dragon. And today, in fact, is the very second day of the first lunar month. And what a distinct honor and pleasure to be a part of the upcoming exhibition at the museum entitled Poem Li Sao, Qu Yuan, and the Dragon Boat Festival. As a Chinese American myself, I feel proud to play, however, I'm a minutely small role in the museum's effort of fulfilling its visionary and perceptive vision. So today's topic of my presentation is Li Sao, a 2,300-year-old literary gem still shines today. And so the next slide, we have the announcement and invitation to the exhibition, which starts on March 29th. Well, let me first begin by sharing with you a couple of images of the poet Qu Yuan to set the mood right. So here we have a slide of a statue of Li Sao to the right, and right in the middle. I know the software probably messed up a little bit, but let me read the very first verse, the first line of this long poem, Li Sao by Qu Yuan. 地高阳之苗一喜, and translated as the scion of the high lord Gao Yang. Okay, the next image, please. So this is Qu Yuan, at least as the artist depicted how he could have looked 2,300 years ago. Okay, next one, please. So Qu Yuan, the first known poet by name in China's long history, and he is the father of Chinese poetry. And born into royal lineage, served in a court of the King of Chu during the Warring States period at the time when the state of Chu was at its heyday, territorially and otherwise. And as you can see from the image down the bottom left, the map of the Warring States at that time, and Chu, the brown section in the middle lower part of the map, was actually the largest state territorially and very prosperous. So as a young statesman trusted by the king, Qu Yuan invited jealousy, as we can understand. So consequently, he led a fearlessly heroic, sadness-laden life as an idealist some 2,300 years ago. He claimed his own uprightness and purity in a society marked by turbidity and murkiness. Next slide. So here I'm quoting two verses, two lines from the third section of the Li Sao, the poem. 朝饮木兰之坠露兮，夕餐秋菊之落英。I sip the falling dewdrops from the magnolia at dawn. I feast on the fallen petals of the autumn chrysanthemum at dusk. Next one, please. So Qu Yuan insisted on moral integrity and courage in a society sunken hopelessly in ubiquitous intrigues, corruption, depravity, and degradation. Passionately patriotic, he faced political intrigue and political opposition from rival officials at the court. And those aristocratic sycophants, if I may call them, slandered and falsely framed him and manipulated the king against him. So he was exiled, and during his exile, he composed some of his most famous poetry, at least 17 long ones, as we are attributable to him, expressing his love for his country and lamenting his political situation of the time. I quote again from the section 8, out of a total of 11 sections in the poem. 是顿诸而既嫌隙，好避美而称恶。For the world is impure and envious of the able, eager to hide man's good and make much of their ill. Next one, please. So here are two additional images of Qu Yuan. So we can feel probably the time at Qu Yuan's life when he felt utterly disappointed by the surroundings around him, social, political, and otherwise. Okay, next one, please. Qu Yuan was erudite and full of wisdom, noble, and refused to ever, quote unquote, wallow in the mire where others found themselves. Just as what one of the early 20th century French poets and leading figure in avant-garde literary and artistic circles, Guillaume Apollinaire wrote, I would not trade even my flute for a king's scepter. And this was a statement I think captures very well of Qu Yuan's mentality and feelings and emotions. Qu Yuan's immaculate soul sublimated into a lasting memory in the minds of all Chinese. Next one, please. Here is another quote, 4 characters in one of the verses, 鸷鸟不群, eagles do not flock like birds of lesser species. And this is from section 4 of the poem. So for Qu Yuan, the value of the meaning of life far exceeded that of life itself. He drowned himself in the Milo River as an act of protest and despair. And according to legend, after Qu Yuan's suicide, the people of Chu threw pyramid-shaped sticky rice dumplings wrapped in bamboo leaves, you will see images momentarily, the zongzi, into the river to prevent the fish from consuming him. And over time, this practice evolved into the tradition of making and eating zongzi during the Dragon Boat Festival. Next one, please. So here are 2 images of zongzi in case you have not tasted nor seen them before, saw them before. Okay, next one, please. The people of Chu are also said to have tried to rescue him after he jumped into the Milo River by racing in boats, beating drums loudly to scare away fish and prevent them from devouring him. And this is said to be the origin of the Dragon Boat Festival, during which dragon boat races are held in commemoration of Qu Yuan. Among the 3 major holidays in China, like what we're celebrating right now, the Lunar New Year, that's the first one. And the Dragon Boat Festival usually comes in probably July, I suppose, in June or July, June. In fact, it falls on the 5th day of the 5th lunar month. So normally it's in the Gregorian calendar in the month of June. Okay, and the third festival celebrated in China quite wildly is a Mid-Autumn Festival. But only this one, the Dragon Boat Festival, commemorates one single highly revered individual, a martyr for his own ideals. Next one, please. So here are two images of the Dragon Boat Festival. And probably there will be one in San Diego, I hope, this year. Okay, next one, please. The International Dragon Boat Federation was founded in 1991. So this is more than just a Chinese festival. It's now celebrated in many countries in different parts of the world. So with this particular federation had an initial membership of 72 countries and territories worldwide. The Dragon Boat Festival was inscribed actually on the UNESCO's representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. That was in 2009. This recognition highlights the cultural significance and practices associated with the festival, including dragon boat races, the making and eating of zongzi, and other customs related to the commemoration of this poet, Qu Yuan. Next slide, please. So throughout Chinese history, we find plenty of accolades of leading Chinese literati, artists depicting Qu Yuan or describing him. And the first one I'd like to quote is Sima Qian, lived in the 2nd century BC, the grand historian. And he wrote, Qu Yuan's moral character is as brilliant as the two celestial bodies, the sun and the moon. And Li Bai, the second one, or Li Bo, B-O or B-A-I, okay, of the Tang Dynasty, lauded Qu Yuan with these verses. Qu Yuan's literary masterpieces shine as the sun and the moon when King Huai of Chu's palaces on the hills are nowhere to be found. What a stark contrast, you know, the immortality of Qu Yuan's written works and all the physical buildings and palaces of the King of Chu. Now, the third one I would like to quote is from Su Shi, another very popular poet. And he wrote in ultimate humility. And this is really quite incredible. I quote from him. When compared with Qu Yuan's writings, my own literary works are utterly inferior. So this is the utter reverence shown by some of the leading literati during the past 2,000 years. So let's go to the next slide, please. I will quote two more of more modern men of letters. One is Wang Guowei, a modern Chinese historian and poet. And he remarked, Qu Yuan's integrity and moral character alone could have made him immortal, even without considering his literary talent and brilliance. And Liang Qichao, one of the famed reformers in modern China, and went as far as saying, Qu Yuan is a personification of human emotions and compassion, and that no one can claim himself to be a Chinese unless he's able to appreciate and understand Qu Yuan's writings. And now we know the historical significance of Qu Yuan as a poet and as a giant literary man. The next one, please. So during the time of Qu Yuan, there were actually two literary genres at the time. And you know, for people who are interested in the history of Chinese literature, they most likely would have to start with these two genres at the time. So during the Warring States period, about 403 to 221 BC, two twin literary genres emerged. The Shi Jin, the Book of Odes, in the northern states. So I marked the word Shi Jin in green to show its colder region in the north, among the northern states. While the Chu Zi, I used a more warmer color to show that it is in the south, So the songs of Chu emerged in the southern states. So these were the two main literary genres at the time, Shijin and Chuci, one in the north and one in the south. So together, the Shijin and the Chuci form the foundation of classical Chinese poetry, representing distinct yet complementary literary traditions that flourish at the time. The Shijin, green color in the north, is a collection of ancient Chinese ballads covering a wide range of topics, including love, politics, daily life, and nature. Next one, please, Yudan. Thank you. So the Shijin reflects, this is in the north, among the northern states, okay, reflects the diverse cultural and social landscape of ancient China, offering insights into the beliefs, values, and customs of different regions and communities in the northern states. So on the other hand, the Chuci in the south is associated with the poet Qu Yuan and represents the poetic tradition of the Chu state. The genre of Chuci features highly imaginative and emotionally charged works, often exploring themes of exile, lamentation, and longing. So the Chuci is celebrated for its lyrical beauty and vivid imagery, as well as its profound reflections on the human condition and the political turmoil of the era. So now I hope we have a distinct kind of sense that these two traditions are quite different in style and in vocabulary, capturing different kind of traditions during the Warring States period. Next slide, please. So Qu Yuan's poem from the south, Li Sao, okay, translated as the lament, or sometimes translated as encountering sorrow, by David Hawkes, for instance. So Li Sao is the longest known ancient Chinese poem, and it is an autobiographical epic consisting of 2,474 Chinese characters with a total of 376 lines. It holds immense historical importance within the Chuci genre of Chinese literature. In the poem Li Sao, Qu Yuan expressed his ideals and emotions in a metaphorical manner with an amazingly wide scope of vocabulary, marking it or making it a literary masterpiece that reflects the eternal flame of a soul. I have to add a little comment here. Li Sao is quite difficult to actually read, even among the educated people today. It contains a lot of very archaic characters or expressions, and the vocabulary is just extremely wide, incredibly wide. And many of the characters, I think modern men of, educated men and women of the modern times would find them hard to pronounce. So that's one of the reasons why, it's not as much appreciated as it should have been. All right, let's go to the next. Okay, excuse me, did I skip a slide? And we go back one, please. Okay. All right. Okay, so that's good. Thank you. That next one, please. So Qu Yuan expresses his tenacious and unswerving search for truth, goodness, and beauty. And this is Zhen Shan Mei in Chinese. And it shows his utmost moral character. And he fought against all vice fiercely. Li Sao has touched profoundly the souls of innumerable people during the past 2 millennia. And scholars have been studying this poem ever since it was written. You see the illustration down the bottom of the slide. And the oldest version of Qu Yuan was probably inscribed on the bamboo slits, as the picture shows. Okay, next slide, please. And Li Sao, this poem, or the lament, is structurally distinct and clear. And it is stylistically unique and elegant, richly imaginative, emotionally expressive, and fiercely heroic. And the vocabulary is very broad and resplendent, and writing vigorously and forcefully. Li Sao has been a source of inspiration for countless artists and man of letters throughout Chinese history. And down the bottom, you see the long scroll that I just completed a few months ago, Li Sao in its entirety. So it's a highly condensed, shrunken image of the 66 feet long scroll. Okay, I will show a little more detail later on. Thank you. Okay, Yuda, next, please. So why Li Sao? If we may just recap a little bit, because it is a pioneer work, and it has innovative style. It has immense cultural significance, and the influence upon later dynasties and all men of letters and men and women of letters, in fact, have been tremendous. And last but not the least, it is a symbol of Chinese identity. I would like to just say a few words of each of these 5 points. Next slide, please. So it is a pioneer work. In what sense? Qu Yuan's Li Sao is considered one of the earliest and most significant works in the Chuzi genre. And it marks the beginning of a new era in Chinese literature, characterized by its lyrical and emotional expression. Next one, please. And secondly, it has innovative style. Qu Yuan's poetic style in Li Sao departed from the more rigid and restrained literary conventions of earlier times, for instance, the odes in the Shijing from the northern states. So Qu Yuan infused his poetry with a heightened emotional intensity, expressing personal anguish, longing, and despair. And Qu Yuan employed vivid imagery and rich symbolisms in his poetry, drawing on mythology, folklore, and natural phenomena to convey his themes. And Qu Yuan's poetry often reflected his own personal experiences, beliefs, and struggles, marking a shift toward a more subjective and introspective style of writing. Okay, next, please. And the third point is that it has immense cultural significance. And Li Sao reflects the historical and cultural context of Qu Yuan's time, particularly the political turmoil and personal disillusionment he experienced. And through his poetry, Qu Yuan expressed his frustration with the corruption and moral decay of the government, as well as a deep concern for the welfare of his people. And we can certainly find echoes even today. Next one, please. And the influence of Li Sao on later works is immense. And Qu Yuan's Li Sao exerted a profound influence on subsequent generations of poets and writers in China, and together with artists and painters and so forth. His themes of exile, longing, and lamentation became recurring motifs in Chinese literature, inspiring countless limitations and adaptations over the centuries. Next one, please. So finally, it is really a symbol of Chinese identity, because Qu Yuan himself has become a symbol of Chinese cultural identity and resilience. And this is a very important kind of Chinese virtue in face of adversities and difficulties and challenges. And his commitment to his principles, even in the face of diversity, adversity, resonates deeply with the Chinese people and has contributed to his enduring legacy as one of China's greatest literary figures. Next one, please. In summary, Qu Yuan's Li Sao occupies a central place in the history of the Chuzi genre, not only for its artistic merits, but also for its cultural and historical significance in shaping the trajectory of Chinese literature. So we celebrate Qu Yuan today and his epic Li Sao to highlight our perennial longing for the inner light that is inherent in each and every soul. Next slide, please. So there are a lot of noted calligraphers in Chinese history who have either quoted partially, just a single verse or a few verses, or try to write the entire text of this long poem. So including Mi Fu, also known as Mi Fei, in the 11th century, Ouyang Xun in the 6th century, 7th century, century later, and Wu Rui. This is in the Yuan Dynasty, 1235 to 1308, and Wen Zhengmin. This is 15th, 16th century, very renowned artist, and Yu Youren. This is more modern, and even Mao Zedong, or known as Chairman Mao, in the 20th century, have also tried. I'm going to show you some examples of their works. Next slide, please. Chinese calligraphy. Let me just say a few words of what is Chinese calligraphy. Why do I pick this up as something important? In this presentation, Chinese calligraphy is a microcosm of culture. It is more than just a linear form of art. It is a linear form of art. It is a special form of art, space and lines. But more than that, it is a microcosm of culture. When you have a piece of rice paper on the table before you, what you write on the paper. So it is a reflection of history, of culture, of works of the previous masters, of the all the values and worldview, philosophy, and you have absorbed and have them become part of your of you, who you are. So when a calligraphy writes, this is quite often a saying, 笔如其人. That means what you write on paper reflects you in your character, you as a human being. So, I went as bold as saying this. This is the second bullet. It is an art form par excellence. And why do I say that? What is art? It is an expression of your emotions, or what you have accumulated, in your bosom, you want to pour out and share with people. Isn't that what art is really about? So I think, in terms of Chinese calligraphic art, it captures the essence of the culture itself, a long literary tradition and philosophical values and notions and so forth, that have all become part of you. So Chinese calligraphy is widely recognized as a bona fide fine art. This is not just in Asia, but also throughout the world, if you study world history of art. So in terms of fine art, Chinese have a different tradition vis-a-vis the European. I guess when I talk about European art, it is basically the architecture, right? The paintings and sculpture. But in China, quite different. The fine arts, the three fine arts in China, actually number one is poetry, 诗, and number two is hua. It will be just paintings, and then calligraphy is the third one. So very different from the Western kind of notion of fine arts. So there are three essential qualities of fine calligraphy accepted throughout Chinese tradition. So how do we tell, a piece of calligraphic work is good or not as good? How do we judge? What are the criteria? So I have kind of condensed the set of criteria into three, I think, very primary ones. The first one is the strength of bone. Every stroke, as you write on paper, or any calligrapher does that on paper, it should show some kind of strength of bone. I quote these words because they are quite unique in the Chinese artistic tradition. Okay, so do you have that strength of bone in your stroke, in your characters? Of course, compositionally, lines and characters and the entire composition have to show some kind of organismic unity. And the word organismic, one of the earliest users of this, or the probably one of the first, if not the first, be one of the first users of this word would be Joseph Needham, known as the 20th century great historian of Chinese science. And it does take quite a number of years of learning and practice to develop one's calligraphic unique individual style. So I would like to show some examples. Next slide, please. So here is Wen Zhengmin, a Ming Dynasty artist. The Li Sao, you see on the right, two characters. Li Sao, that's the Chinese characters for Li Sao. And this only shows, I guess, the first or the third two or three sections of the long point, but there are a total of 11. So let's show the next one, please. So in this slide, we see on the upper right, that's the beginning two lines, as you just saw in the previous slide. If you move to the far left, you have Mi Fu's calligraphic representation of this poem, and you have the two different versions by the same artist. And then you have Wu Rui's, clerical style, and you have Ouyang Xiu's modern style. Okay, and at the center, you'll see Yu Youren. This is Yu Youren's quotation of one of the Li Sao related kind of poems by Qu Yuan too. Okay, next slide, please. And here we have three versions, all by the same person, Mao Zedong, known as Chairman Mao. In fact, it's really quite impressive. And he was, because he himself was quite impressed with Li Sao's work, and his kind of patriotic kind of emotions and how he tried to capture, the elegance of this piece of literary gem from so long ago. So on your right, you see Mao Zedong with his own brush pen wrote line by line, 地高阳之苗一兮, okay, 真皇考阅博用. And if you move from right to left, and you'll go on and on and on, there's 376 lines. And in the middle, you have a more kind of modern style writing by Mao Zedong too. Okay, so he apparently was quite impressed with Qu Yuan and his work. And to the left, you have the carved or etched entire text of Li Sao on a stele in China. It's a huge one. As you can see, the person standing in front. This is kind of quite overwhelming. To the next slide, please. So Qu Yuan Li Sao on one continuous scroll, it's hard to find anything, I think. I have not found anything online yet. So this is one image I showed you earlier. Let me just show again. This is the entirety of this poem. And then, so it took nearly 4 years for me to produce this 66 feet long work, starting with a dedicated and meticulous reading of the Li Sao. Actually, we have a group of book club members. We started reading this line by line, actually, every day, 2 lines of Li Sao. It took us almost 2 years to finish up the poem. That was during the pandemic from 2019 until 2021, a year or two or 3 years ago. So we actually spent a lot of time combing through every character and line with probably 300 some members at the book club originated in Southern California and still going strong. So it took me several years actually to absorb as fully as possible the emotions experienced by Qu Yuan, and followed with a month-long rigorous research and verification of each of the characters together with 2 other learned individuals, as there exist several versions over the past centuries. So in some other places, you'll probably find the number of characters are different. Instead of 2,474, could be slight variations because some were missing and some were probably not as accurate. So we spent a month, actually studied character by character, going through, referring to the oldest dictionaries and encyclopedias, even Suhu Quanshu, the 4 imperial libraries of Emperor Qianlong, to compare different versions of Li Sao and to determine what would be the right character and what was a superfluous character or what were the duplicate verses. So we try to come up with a much tidier or a cleaner version of it. So this is the closest to probably to the original that we have decided. So that's why I was able to spend the next few months to complete this scroll. So this is the first time, as far as I know, that the complete poem is written on a continuous scroll, a passion project, I call it, in a 3-month period. It required 2 veteran scroll mounters in Southern California an entire month to complete the mounting project itself. It was a huge project. Okay, I'm glad it is now done that I can share with you. And it will be included in the exhibition scheduled for the fall semester this year at the State University, San Diego State University at the Chinese Cultural Center. Okay, next slide, please. So this is the actual, you can feel the size and probably the weight of this scroll. Okay, all right, next slide, please. So the beginning 2 characters, the title, Li Sao, and in Chinese, you read from right to left in this case, and I reverse the color. That's the first part of the long scroll, Li Sao, the name of the poem. Next one, please. So I just want to quote a few important, I think, most representative verses in this presentation to give everyone a real taste and feel of Qu Yuan's, whatever Qu Yuan encountered, and the beauty of this poem itself. Okay, this is the very first section of the poem. Yeah. All right, next one, please. So I reverse the color, the image. So this is very much like a stone stele, could be like the ones included in the Xi'an Beilin, the forest, the stone forest, or the forest of steles in Xi'an. Okay. All right, just showing you the different kind of feelings when the color is reversed. Okay, next one, please. So I quote from the very beginning section of the poem. There are 2 lines. 日月乎其不掩兮，春与秋其代序。The days and months hurried on, never delaying. Springs and autumns sped by in endless alteration. So why do I quote this particular 2 verses? Well, Qu Yuan was anxious to effectuate a reform for the state of Chu at that time. But of course, he was was exiled and was not, his ideas were not adopted. But he was so anxious that time keeps running by us, slip through our fingers, but I don't have much time left. So the sun and moon hurried on, never stopped. And spring, year after year, how much more time do I have to bring prosperity and success to the state? Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this is the 4th section of the poem. Next one, please. And here I would like to quote from that particular screen too, and kind of extracted from the 4th section. So read the English part. Eagles do not flock like birds of lesser species. So it has ever been since the olden time. How can the round and square ever fit together? Yet humbling one's spirit and curbing one's pride. Okay, bearing blame humbly and enduring insults, but keeping pure and spotless and dying in righteousness. Such conduct was greatly prized by the wise men of old. So this is part of this poem. Next one, please. And this is section 5. So you can get a kind of view of the length of each of the sections. Okay. All right, next one, please. This is section number 6. Okay. We don't have time to go through this entire poem, but at least some verses I chose as representative verses to share with you. Next one, please. Okay, this is reversed image of the previous slide. Next one. So here is from that particular slide, section number 6, I quote, "Many a heavy sigh I heaved in my despair, grieving that I was born in such an unlucky time. I plucked soft lotus petals to wipe my welling tears that fell down in rivers and wet my coat front." Okay. Next one, please. And this is section number 7 of Li Sao. Next one. And I quote 4 lines from Li Sao, from this particular section. Okay, "I order Xi Huo," and this is the sun charioteer, "to stop. Rush not toward Mount Yanzi. Long, long had been my road, and far, far was the journey. I would go up and down and search for an answer." So time is getting shorter for Qu Yuan at the time. So he ordered Xi Huo, this is mythological figure, right? The sun charioteer. The sun would ride in the chariot and move, through the sky, and eventually will end up at Mount Yanzi, where the sun rests for the night before it comes out again next morning. So beautiful application or adaptation of the mythological concepts and notions and figures in this very, very rich and inspiring poem. Okay, next one, please. This is Li Sao section number 10. Each section is sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. They vary in length. Just want to give you a little feel of this poem. Next one, please. So I quote a few lines from this section 10 of Li Sao. Okay. 孔的确之先民兮，使复百草为之不芳。何琼佩之厌简兮，众爱然而避之。Beware lest the shrike sound his note before the equinox, causing all the flowers to love their fine fragrance. Okay. How splendid the glitter of my jasper girdle, but the crowd make a dark screen, masking its beauty. So according to legend, if the shrike starts to sing, okay, before the equinox, and then all the flowers would not probably bloom, because usually people believe that shrike would sing after the equinox, or so if it does so before the equinox, it could cause all the flowers to not to bloom. So this is again the imagery that he used to relate to himself and his feelings. All right, next one, please. This is the last section of the poem, number 11. Okay, next one. Again, let me just quote a few lines from the last, the final section of the poem. When we have mustered there, all 1,000 chariots. This was shortly before he committed suicide. Okay, Jet Hub and Jet Hub, we galloped on abreast. My 8 dragon steeds flew on with writhing undulations. My cloud-embroidered banners flap on the wind. In vain, I tried to curb them, to slacken the swift pace. The spirit soared high, far into the distance. We played the night songs and danced shout dances, borrowing the time to make it merry. So here we have a kind of a party before his departure. And this is grandiose description of him and his spirit. Okay, jet hub to jet hub, galloped. Okay, thousands of chariots are gathered. 8 dragon steeds, flew on. Okay, and then you have the cloud embroidered banners flapping in the wind. But then, in vain, I try to curb them, but he moves closer and closer. But then, see, the night songs and the shout dances are reportedly, or according to Chinese legend and history, were songs and dances played in a court, in the imperial court. Okay, so he was, because don't forget, he was from the royal lineage, and he had royal blood in him. So, but he wanted to borrow the time to make it merry before eventually he ended his life. Next one, please. So this is the very final statement of this point. 乱月已在，国无人莫我知悉，又何怀乎故都？既莫足于惟美正兮，吾将从彭贤之所居。Enough. There are no true men in the state, no one to understand me. Why should I cleave to my beloved state, since none is worthy to work with in making good government? I will go and join Peng Xian in the place where, oops, missing something. Yeah, where they were. Okay. All right, next one. This is the final statement in the point. And this is followed with a postscript. I acknowledge the inspiration that I received from the book, the Wind Eve Book Club in Southern California, and all the previous men of letters who praised him. Okay, next one, please. And finally, I would like to just show you a sneak peek of this long scroll. Okay, I don't know if there's a video, but I don't know if it will play or not. It may not play. But this will be on display in the fall at the Chinese Cultural Center at the San Diego State University. And I hope at that time, when you are available and interested, I may go and make a visit. So again, next slide, please. I think, I hope this video will show. I don't know. If you click on it, if you double click.
Oh, here we are. There's the end. Hello. Okay, slow.
Jameson, are you there?
Jameson. Look at Jameson. Thank you. Amazing.
Amazing, amazing.
Okay.
Make sure you send it to us, okay?
Okay, I will.
Because we can do this as a sneak preview.
Here we are.
Well, that's okay. But it's supposed to be a 29-second video clip, but it's okay. But we get a feel of it. We had probably 8 people that day. Some passersby and some students of Dr. Jones, and they just all happened to be at the Chinese Cultural Center. So we mobilized 8 people to try to unfold and hold this long scroll. Okay, thank you so much. Next one, please. Okay, so after you visit the San Diego Chinese Historical Museum's exhibit next month through August, and if you're interested in seeing this long scroll of Li Sao, come to the exhibit at the Chinese Cultural Center. And for more information, you can email me or follow me on the Instagram with this QR code. All right, and next slide, please. And I just want to say thank you for this great opportunity to be a part of the museum's diligent effort to preserve and promote Chinese culture and customs to the larger community. Okay, the last slide, I would like to show you my gratitude. The next slide, please. Okay, just before the last slide, I want to just remind you again, a lecture by Lily Birmingham will take place on March 16th. And this is the second part of this talk and before the actual exhibition at the museum. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you, and thank you, and thank you. All right, Dr. Stein.
Oh, first of all, I want to thank you, Dr. Lee. It was just a wonderful presentation. And as someone who's not a Chinese speaker, I just found it to be fascinating. Your calligraphy combined with it is wonderful. And to put it in perspective, every culture has these memorable, long poems that define an age and define a people. And I'm thinking of Homer's Odyssey that was written in Greek, and I'm thinking of Virgil's Aeneid in Latin, and Beowulf written in early English, Chaucer's Canterbury Tales in the 1300s, April with its showers sweet, and people can remember lines, and you, I'm sure, and many cultured Chinese people must know that first line. And Jewish people have the Torah, which is basically a hero's tale. Christian people call it the Old Testament, a hero's tale of Moses taking the Israelites out of Egypt and finding the great prize, the Ten Commandments on Mount Sinai, and delivering the people to the promised land. These stories are ubiquitous in different cultures. And Omar Khayyam in Persia and the Rubaiyat, it's amazing. And so I find it all just a wonderful talk. I was wondering, and Mao Zedong, who was a calligrapher himself, I was wondering if Chiang Kai-shek, his rival, was also a calligrapher, because they were always at each other's throats until they died in the 1970s. And I was guessing that Chiang Kai-shek wouldn't have allowed Mao to be a calligrapher if he wasn't himself. Was he one as well?
Well, Chiang Kai-shek has not been recognized as a quote unquote calligrapher, but I, as one individual, I do like his writing. You know, he has very clean and very, very nice strokes, and he executes his brush very skillfully, actually. Yeah. He doesn't have a lot of poetry and things written, but you know, whenever I saw he does his own unique style. And you can write, this is Chiang Kai-shek's writing. You can tell, you know, because he has his own style. Very nice.
Very, very good. Anyway, I just found this to be absolutely fascinating, and it opens up one's eyes into another facet of Chinese culture. And again, we want to thank you so much. Now, people will have questions, and after Lily Birmingham speaks, I think we'll have time for questions. So, Lily, if you would like to have a discussion of this wonderful talk.
Thank you, Bob. And thank you, Dr. Lee, for a wonderful presentation. I'm really impressed by the effort you mentioned, the study group you joined, that you guys dedicated a couple of years to study Li Sao. That was quite an amazing effort to me. And I'm really looking forward to your calligraphy in the upcoming exhibitions. And I want to talk a little more about the two books, or the literary genres at the time Dr. Lee mentioned. And I have an engineering background. I really didn't have much time to study literature. And so these two books to me were just two names. Over a year ago, I didn't know much more about them, but I've been studying more. So I would like to share a little more about these two ancient books next. So I'm still studying. The first one is 诗经. Next page. 诗经 is the oldest poetry book or book of odes. It's from the north, as Dr. Li said. It's the oldest collection of Chinese poetry. There are over 300 poems or ballads dating from the 11th to the 7th century BCE. Many are short lyrics in simple language that reflect the voice of the common people. There is a direct, earnest warmth about the lyrical expressions of all the people. And the formation of Shi Jing is closely related to the ritual and music system of the Zhou dynasty, which was 1046 to 256 BCE. The Zhou dynasty had a poetry collection system. Special personnel went to various places to collect folk songs and gathered them. And some officials also submitted their recommendations. The music officials compiled them and presented them to the emperor first. Then these poems or songs were compared to the customs, revised as necessary, and they became the official collection. So there is no known author. That's very different from Chu Ci. There are three styles of the collection. The first one is Feng. They're mainly folk songs. They address love, politics, and nature and daily life. The second group is Ya. They're formal melodies. It may be for a performance about the dynasty and the court life. The third group is Song. There are songs used in ancestral temple sacrifices played to match the dance. So, and what's interesting is because we say they're simple language, Shi Jing is a rich source of the 4-character classical idioms that are still part of Chinese language, Chinese study. So I think many of Chinese are like me. We know these idioms, but we didn't know they came from Shi Jing 2,300 years ago or even older. So I have a couple examples here. The first one is 一日不见如三秋兮 or 一日不见如隔三秋. It means not seeing for one day is like not seeing for 3 years. Originally, it was the expression between lovers, but it is so popular that people use for friends, families. Sometimes it's just for fun. If you have not seen someone for a long time, you can always use it. For example, if you're working on a proposal and then you work with another coworker every day intensively for a period of time, and then all of a sudden it ended, the proposal was submitted. So you don't see the person for a few days. And when you see the person again, you can say, wow, not seeing you for one day is like not seeing you for 3 years. So sometimes it's for fun. And that's why these phrases are so popular. The next one is 战战兢兢, 如临深渊, 如履薄冰. So you can say you're facing a big task. You tremble with fear as if facing a deep space or walking on ice. And again, it's so popular. Somebody might say, talking to my boss is like facing a deep space or walking on ice. So these are just very common expressions people use every day without knowing they came from very, very long time ago. So Chinese language is very interesting. Next. So now let's talk about Chu Ci. This is China's second oldest poetry book. It can translate it as Songs of the South or Songs of Chu, which literally means the words of the Chu state people. And these are writings created by poets from the Chu state, led by Qu Yuan. So this is very different from Shi Jing, which were common people's simple words. Chu Ci is a lot more sophisticated. Because Li Sao is the most famous poem, the style is also called the Sao style. the length of sentences are more flexible, more expressive. So they're not the typical 4 characters as in Shi Jing. And the writings in 楚辞 are glorious, imaginative, and passionate. They become the sources of Chinese literature, imitated by many later generations, as Dr. Li mentioned. So this is also why we call Qu Yuan the father of Chinese poetry. And I also want to talk about shamanism. It was the culture in the Chu state. Qu Yuan's work, which forms the core of Chu Ci, derives its imagery from shamanistic ritual. And as Dr. Li talked about, he was riding on carriages with dragons and all the fantastic images. They are related to the shamanistic ritual or culture. And his writings are among the most beautiful and mysterious liturgical works. So I want to say a little more about Qu Yuan's works in addition to Li Sao, just so you get a little flavor of his writing. Next. Dr. Li also mentioned 9 songs. It was written by Qu Yuan. The poems in 9 songs use gorgeous language to describe lively and intimate ritual scenes. As I said, during Qu Yuan's time, it was common of these shamanist scenarios. So it was common at ceremonies, the gods will be played by shamans, and other shamans will welcome the gods, and the surrounding crowd will sing and dance around the shamans. So the shamans not only worshipped gods, also entertained people. In the poems, these gods have human emotions, and most poems contain plots about the love between gods and between humans and gods. And these love affairs often reveal the persistence in pursuit of life and the sadness of not being able to reach the goals. And this may be due to Qu Yuan's own feelings of being lost in life. He was lonely and desolate. An example is about the mountain ghost or mountain spirit. It was about a goddess who is waiting to meet her lover, and she has all sorts of emotions in anticipation and preparation, and then she's late and misses the entire rendezvous. She becomes depressed. And the language is beautiful, but Qu Yuan never indicated who the lovers represent. So there's a lot of speculation what they represent. Just like in Li Sao, nothing is very clearly indicated, but there's a lot of implications and symbolism. Next. Okay, this is the one I want to say a little bit about. It's called Tian Wen, or Ask Heaven, or Heavenly Questions. It's totally different from his typical very lyrical writings. In China, heaven is the origin of all things and the order of all things. So heaven is like God. So Qu Yuan was a person interested in many things. He wrote this Tian Wen with 172 questions, ranging from myths and legends to historical records, including the principles of heaven and earth, the origin of survival and decline, the judgment of good and evil, and the theory of magic and ghost. So it's really broad. It covers a lot of things, and a lot of them are scientific questions. So Qu Yuan had the spirit of bold doubt, and maybe he was hoping to explore the order of the world. And the structure of the poem is 4 sentences in one section. Each section has 1 rhyme. The rhythm and sound are naturally coordinated. And in China, people will say it's the most amazing work through the ages. So I have a couple sentences here. See, dawn breaks, night falls, but consider time. What is that? The next, if the world is an oval, longer from south to north, but how much longer? So these are very scientific questions. And most of the questions he raised had no answers at the time. It was 2,300 years ago. So he was definitely a man with a curious mind. And so if you're interested in more of Qu Yuan's writing in Li Sao or more, I have a list of references if you're interested. I think that is my next. That is my last slide. And now we can have questions for Dr. Li from everybody.
Elizabeth, this was, again, just a wonderfully enlightening and enjoyable morning. I'm so glad we've done this today. I'm sure we have a bunch of comments and questions, Elizabeth. I'm sure the comments are people who are thrilled to have listened to this. What have we got, Elizabeth?
Well, Bob, you are exactly right. There are very many comments, particularly on, I mean, it's people use the word exquisite frequently in the comments. I think that people are very impressed by the passion project that Dr. Li shared with us. There is one, I recognize comments from Judith, from Emily, from Professor Sufan Chung, from Grace, and there's one audience member, Adele Stern, who had a couple of questions, and I think she may wish to interact. And Adele, turn your microphone and camera on. Okay.
Hello.
Hi. Hi, Adele. What would you like to ask?
Well, Dr. Stein, I was so impressed by your comments about the analogy of the scroll, this beautiful poetry, and the Torah scroll, which I think is about 1,000 years apart. So one of my first questions was, I knew the Torah scroll was made from skins of animal, kosher animal. What were the old Chinese scrolls made from? Was they rice paper or bamboo? Because I just took the course from the English Speaking Union on what is a book. And I found out about all the old materials that were used for books.
Okay, should I answer that, or Dr. Stein?
Please, please answer it, Dr. Li.
Well, you know, in the oldest Chinese writings were found actually on the oracle bones, you know, can date back to probably some thousand years ago. And the oracle bones inscription was never found until 1899 by archaeologists. You know, very interestingly, even though Chinese knew there were oracle bones, but no one actually saw one until 1899. But yeah, go ahead, please.
No,
Yeah.
I find that interesting that was one of the things that was discussed then, that one of the oldest books came from Asia and they were on oracle bones.
Well, the oracle bones, they were in fragment pieces now because they disappeared for thousands of years until late 19th century. So now scientists are trying to collect all these little pieces together and try to make some kind of like jigsaw puzzle that try to match those pieces so to make sense. And scholars have done that. But you know, to answer your question, paper was invented in the Han Dynasty in China. So before the Han, before the second, third century BC, all the were a lot of oral ballots, and that's why people had to collect them and actually carve them on those bamboo or wooden slits, and then would, you know, bind them into huge, kind of physically very large, kind of hard to carry quote unquote books. Sometimes takes a whole cart or several carts to contain one book. You know what I mean? But until the paper discovered, but now, ever since the Han Dynasty on, of course the initial form of paper, but now most people use rice paper, quote unquote rice paper. Some of them are probably made of rice stalks, but some others may not be made directly from rice, but they're still called rice paper. The kind of paper I use for my scroll is still called rice paper, but there are different kinds of, I guess, ingredients. Yeah. So I don't know if I answered your question satisfactorily or not.
Oh, you did. And I also asked, is there any way we can get a copy of the English translation of the entire poem? Because it really is so exquisite.
Fox has a complete translation. There are several versions, and Lily Birmingham provided some sources, right? In the last slides she showed. Yeah, that was one.
I didn't see that. Okay. Yeah, because I was struck by the analogy, as I said, to the Torah, which we go through in my culture. We go through that all the time because the Hebrew characters frequently do not translate to English word for word. So they're always open to interpretation, which is why there's so much discussion on what, aside from Moses and the Red Sea, there are many books of the Torah, and their stories are many often open-ended and open to interpretation. So there's always conversations about, what was really meant. So I find this whole conversation today so horizon expanding. And I thank you very, very much.
Yeah, I'd actually like to second. I'd like to second you, Adele. I found exactly the same feeling. It's horizon expanding for someone who wasn't familiar with this poem, and one realizes the commonality with every culture. And so, Dr. Lee, again, parchment would last thousands of years. The Dead Sea Scrolls were written on parchment, which of course is animal skin. Were these original poems written on stone or on animal skin or what?
Well,
On stone, yeah.
or initially, and then after paper was invented, and more people begin to write them on paper. You're right. Paper is not as durable as parchment or probably even papyrus. I don't know, but so one of the things I would like to do is to one day write this whole poem again on the Western canvas. So that will probably be much more durable than paper. I have a lot of paper scrolls in my collection, probably 100, 200 of them. But even after 30, 40 years, they become discolorated and actually begin to deteriorate. And I'm concerned about that. Yeah, you are absolutely right, Adela.
Elizabeth, other question?
I think that Dr. Lily Cheng would like to address.
Yes.
Dr. Cheng, please.
Yeah. My dear friend, I want to wish you a very happy Chinese New Year. I know you're from New York. I want to wish you and Henry a wonderful Happy New Year. Happy to hear your question and to also talk about Torah and the Hebrew language. I want to say thanks to my dear friend in Cambridge, England, Judith. I haven't seen her for a while, but her comment was absolutely wonderful. And I also want to say that Judy worked with Dr. Stephen Hawking for a very long time. To have her here with us is indeed an honor as well. And so my question for Professor Sanbao, I call him Duobao because I think he's multi-talented. I think he has more than 3 talents, is about the scroll that he completed that will be shown at San Diego State University. How long did it take you to complete the whole process? How long?
The preparation, of course, was much longer. As I said, maybe 3 or 4 years. But actual writing took me 3 months.
3 months.
And each it's a pretty wide piece of paper, right? Something you have to really stand up, and unless you need to have strong waist muscles. So it took me about 3 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So you did it piece by piece, and then you put the pieces together, right?
there were altogether 17 full-sized rice paper, and then the monter had to put them all together into one long scroll. Quite
It is, yeah, it is absolutely amazing. I had a sneak preview. For sure, I want people to know it's something of a world treasure. We are very happy to be able to do that. Then my next question for you is, how long did it take for you to understand the full scope of Li Sao? How long did it take you? How many years?
Well, there are still questions. I'm still studying. With not, Li Sao is only one of the only maybe 20 pages of this entire book. This is Chu Ci. It took a long time to fully appreciate and understand. And I myself, I'm a historian. So even though I did offer classes on history of Chinese literature at Cal State Long Beach before, but still, I will forever be a student of Li Sao and Xu Yan's work. It took me about 3 years to actually understand Li Sao, appreciate it, and absorb all the emotion feelings. And eventually it took 4 months, 3 months to actually write it out.
Mm-hmm. Well, congratulations. Just very enlightening and very wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for all your support and encouragement.
I just want to mention the references I have in the end. One is Chinese. It's one version of Chinese. I guess it's interpretation from a professor in China. So that, to me, that was the most recent study and research. So it was number 2 in my references. One is from a professor in New York, study Chinese literature. And so that's the number 1 is English translation. I found it just so beautiful and has a lot of explanation, backgrounds, a lot of information for the entire Songs of the Chu. So the number 2 is Chinese version, Songs of Chu. And the third one is just translation of the poem. The style is very different from number 1, also different from number 4. Dr. Lee mentioned translation by David Hawkes. Turned out David Hawkes did this translation in his graduate school. At the time, he only studied for 3 years of Chinese, and he was able to translate it with, of course, his professor's help. But many, many people there, if you look online, there are so many books related to Li Sao or Chu Ci, and people have all kinds of interpretations and their discussions. Even the writings, Dr. Lee showed you some of the calligraphy throughout centuries. They have different characters sometimes. So there's slight variation in the, I guess, transition from dynasty to dynasty. So really, it's very complicated, just like Taurus. There's so many interpretations. People spend a lot of time studying it. So I feel very humbled.
Elizabeth, do we have any other comments from the folks who've been listening?
There are many comments. I know one of the things that was brought up came from Professor Su Fan Chung. She was interested to know, Dr. Lee, if your study on Li Sao had been published.
Well, I have not. After 40 years of teaching in college, I have now in my retirement. This is my 18th year since my retirement, and I publish articles on 19th century Chinese intellectual history, and also on the Chinese language acquisition. But for the Lisao, I have not. But I don't know if I will have enough time, as Chu Yuan complained, to do something like that. It's a bold challenge. Thank you.
Very difficult.
Well, if we don't have any more comments, I want to thank all the participants today and all the people who in the audience who contributed actually for this remarkable session. And I've enjoyed this enormously. And one of the beauties of these monthly lectures on the Chinese American experience and beyond, is the varied nature of them. And this is a good example. And we're looking forward to next month. If we can have that slide up, it's going to be on the third Saturday, and it's going to be Lily Birmingham chatting about the Dragon Boat Festival, plus the references to this poem again. And we're going to look forward to that. And then in April, we're going to be having on the third Saturday, we're going to have Felicia Lowe chat about AAPI films. And so we're going to be looking forward to both of those things. And we want to thank everyone for coming today. And I know I'm speaking for everyone and thanking everyone and looking forward to next month. And we'd like the principals to stay on for another 5-10 minutes. Otherwise, everyone else, we want to bid you goodbye and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And we'll see you all next month. And so I want to say bye-bye, and we'll just stay on for 5-10 more minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and nice meeting everyone online. Thank you very much.
If you'll just stay on, Dr. Lee, for just a couple more minutes.